Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another round of Modern Melee. My name is Ginkgo.
And my name is Marco.
We have one of my favorite decks today, that is Death and Taxes, and the other one not so favorite, but still very beloved, Izzet Murktide on the right hand.
Interesting matchup, definitely.
Extremely so, because Death and Taxes is also a rarity in these parts, but on the other hand, we will see how it holds up against one of the better decks of the format, which is Ragavan, DRC, Murktide Regent, and all of the other spells that come with them.
Yeah, we already featured Death and Taxes on this channel, but we love the deck so much. And I think that we cannot forget that attack with Giver of Runes that happened. Well, let's see if it happens again.
Tears were shed for this attack. But nevertheless, first of all, we see the Syntaxis player mulliganing down to 6 cards, and apparently Izzet player is content with their 7.
And shuffling the opponent's deck.
As it should be, rules as written, always good thing to know. But one thing about... So let's talk about the decks before the game actually begins. What do you... How does the Murktide deck win? What is their game plan?
So, okay, this is... Murktide Regent is a very versatile deck, but I think the strongest card in this deck is the Archmage's Charm, actually, not the Ragavan. Ragavan is great and all, but I think that people actually learn to play against Ragavan.
That's true. That's fair.
But when the Ragavan connects, it's really the bread and butter of any deck.
For example, like now, here we see exiled a Giver of Runes, given a treasure, and there is a DRC getting played. Did the player miss a treasure token? Maybe not. I know.
Okay. Okay. He doesn't have the tokens, but we all remember that he has.
Yeah, there is a treasure token. That's fine.
Here we go.
But he did not play a Giver of Runes.
Okay, he's holding up Counterspell.
Probably. And here we see Talia, Guardian of Traben, which will probably eat a Counterspell. Exactly. Oh no, that's a Spell Snare. Oh god.
Interesting.
That's a high-tech variation on the Counterspell. I mean, very valid, extremely valid card, especially with the prevalence of Ludus decks and everything else that is going around them. 2 mana is the sweet spot for like 40% of the metagame, whichever metagame we take into account. And just countering something for 2 mana and added benefit surveilling with DRC is actually a really nasty play.
Indeed. Okay, so the Izzet Murktide still has the treasure, has Ragavan, has DRC, doesn't have Delirium yet, but I think that's just
that's not necessary in this particular moment. Here we see an attack for 3 and the land getting exiled from the Death and Taxes player, but they are in some dire need of anything, just anything.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Izzet holds Murktide
and also Counterspell.
And also Counterspell. Not looking great for the Death and Taxes player right now. So I wanted to touch a bit more about on the topic of how does the Izzet player win. And I think it's rarely. Rarely, it might be an overstatement, but Murktide is really not the finisher in this deck.
No, exactly. It is a looming threat.
Yes.
That people are always rightfully so afraid of. It is a threat that comes up once you traded all of your resources with the opponent's resources. Your graveyard is full. Both your and your opponent's cards in hand are dwindling or just very low, and Murktide comes down as a 7/7, 8/8, something massive that cannot be killed by anything short of Terminate or Path to Exile or something like it, and just sweeps the life total of your opponent down to 0. So this is the power of Murktide Regent. The best Murktide Regent is the one that is still in your hand when you win the game.
Exactly.
This is true for all counterspells as well. But here you are actually much happier to exchange your counterspell for early game plays and to have this massive threat that just can win the game in 1 or 2 swings.
Exactly. So definitely a deck that systematically wins rather than with one card.
Exactly. So as we saw, this game would probably be much more different on the play versus draw for the Death and Taxes player. We saw great turn 2 plays into great turn 3 plays, both for Talia, Guardian of Thraben, but just counterspells all around with added mana from Ragavan, with potential card advantage from the same creature, and with just life totals dwindling down. We see that the Death and Taxes player is already at half their life total.
Yes.
And some cards being delved down probably for big Murktide
for
Regent.
a Murktide. Actually, I don't think. Well, Murktide Regent is possibly an overkill here, but I don't think that Death and Taxes has any
chance in this game. No, definitely not a chance in this game. There is extremely big lack of viable 1-drops, or actually was before Esper Sentinel was printed. The only things that you have in this deck are Aether Vial and Giver of Runes, which seems like a lot, but with Aether Vial you also need Giver of Runes for it to be good the second turn of the game, because you want to have turn 1 Aether Vial, turn 2 something to Vial in, so 1-drop, and a 2-drop that can get your mana going. So you need to have this curve of 1-drop into 1-drop and 2-drop to be able to compete. And Giver of Runes, while a good card, is lacking in both pressure and protecting itself. In contrast to Mother of Runes, who can protect itself or another creature, Giver of Runes can only give protection to other creatures. Still a great card, but I do think with the prevalence of counterspells and burn spells specifically, so red and black removal, also to a lesser extent some white removal, that it is not as good as advertised, because the creatures are either going to be countered or killed anyways, and the board states will form around 1 or 2 attackers, and we have seen this time and time again, where the board state is less so about massive boards full of creature because they just get wiped away, and it is more about incremental advantage with the creatures coming into play and doing something immediately. Be it attacking with haste or just having impact on the board the moment they come in. Esper Sentinel is a great example of this from Modern Horizons 2 again, because the moment Esper Sentinel comes in, the opponent has a choice. Either delay all of their actions for 1 mana or 1 turn, if it's turn 1, which is huge for Death and Taxes, or giving you a card, which might sound like not as much, but every card in Death and Taxes is highly valued, more so than in other decks that have access to card advantage spells. For example, like Expressive Iteration from the Murktide Regent, or just Archmage's Charm, just plain draw 2 cards and any other cantrip or whichever other thing.
True. Giver of Thrones definitely in a weird position in the meta. It's still being played because there is no better alternatives, I guess.
Exactly,
because Esper Sentinel is not an alternative. It's a great card in addition to other cards in the deck. Also, Esper Sentinel is an amazing card, but it doesn't delay all actions, but non-creature actions, which is important to note, since
Exactly.
I'm playing that card a lot. Yes, I'm a Hammer Time player. Everybody hates me. I even hate myself sometimes because of it. But when I'm playing against Merfolk and I have Esper Sentinel in my starting hand, I'm not usually super delighted. Yes, Ether Vial might draw me a card, but it's four cards in a 60 card deck that will draw me a card, and it doesn't happen often.
Yeah, so what Esper Sentinel is more psychological than actual damage, quote unquote. It's the same thing as with Ragavan, only to a much lesser extent.
Mm-hmm.
So people usually treat a Ragavan hit like a game over. They get a treasure, they get a card, they get everything. Ragavan even does your laundry or whatever. But it's not the end of the world. There have been several matches, even on this channel, one after Ragavan connected like 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
It is more psychological than actual damage that is taken. The same is with Esper Sentinel. So everybody who has played against Esper Sentinel knows the conundrum. Do I give them the card, or do I advance my board? Or do I advance my plan in general?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, I don't know. It is always extremely contextual if you think about it, because if you have several plays in a turn that you want to make, it is usually, and you know that you will spend all your mana, it is usually correct to give them the card. But if you have only 1 or 2 actions to play, and one of them requires you to spend another mana, and you will not be able to do everything if you do not spend this mana, it is probably correct to first get rid of the Esper Sentinel or delay your turn, delay your actions by a turn. Now, I'm saying all of this because, as we saw, hopefully we'll see the Esper Sentinel in game 2. It was lacking in game 1.
So yeah, coming back to match, Murktide Izzet player definitely as expected took game 1. It was quite overwhelming, and that Texas player was screwed, and all of his plays were countered this way or another.
Yeah, so this is the power, and here we see first
Giver of Runes.
So this is turn 1 drop, turn 2 hopefully 2 drop, and then we go from there. But Giver of Runes into, for example, Talia, Guardian of Thraben is a great start, or into the Stoneforge Mystic, also great start, because it gives the inevitability to draw, to protect the other card, and just have it stick on the board for just half a turn or turn more. This is all that Death and Taxes needs. Just half a turn more than it usually has. And here we see just straight removal pointed at this, no shenanigans, no nothing. But it also leaves, exactly, here we see Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now, this is a great card, but as we saw game 1, the power of one drops in a deck like Izzet Murktide, DRC and Ragavan can win the game by themselves. Any of those cards, and we said that and getting hit by Ragavan is not the end of the world, but it can be. Definitely can be. And as we have seen, one drop into Counterspell, into one drop into Counterspell, that's just was game over. And after that point, the Murktide Regent just came down and swept the board. But here we probably see something else. And here is the worst Serum Visions in the world. It's 2 mana Serum Visions that draws a card and then leaves something probably on top that will be either dealt with or, just eat another several mana. And this is the ideal start for the Death and Taxes player. They have their Talia, they have their taxing effect, they have a little bit of breathing room, and then now they can develop. Now they can either play 1 drop and a 2 drop, or just blow up a land, or just make a Saga token, which is probably what they will do, and tutor up something the next turn, probably a Shadow Spear or whatever, maybe even Ether Vial, just so that all of those counter spells will be stranded in the hand of the Murktide player.
Urza Saga coming in very nicely for Death and Taxes player, a very, very hated card that creates 2 creatures and finds an artifact from the deck, tutors from the deck, 1 mana or 0 mana artifact. A great card.
Exactly.
So, is it overpowered?
I would say no.
Okay.
And I have my reasons for this, and one of the reasons is that it is either necessary or it is just okay. And when I say just okay, I mean in the decks that do not have the ability to recur the Urza Saga, or in the decks that do not have the ability for the tokens to become massive, this card is just land with a time counter on it. So
the best thing it can provide is additional line for your blades.
Yes, exactly. But if you play it in a deck that cannot mitigate, but only have like 3/3 in it, and you play it on turn 2, on turn 4, you are without that land, and your 3/3s either are okay in the best scenario, or just overshadowed by Tarmogoyfs, by the Murktide Regents, by whichever massive threat that your opponent has been doing the whole time. And in the process of you doing those 3/3s, you have spent 6 mana.
Exactly. I mean, there's no denying the power of Urza Saga. We are not kidding ourselves. It's a very strong card. It's a great card, especially in decks like Hammer Time. Even Amulet Titan finds a use for the card. But to be honest, in Amulet Titan, it's best played in turn 1.
Yeah, so Amulet Titan, and also sometimes in the Hammer Time deck, you play it for the tutor more than the body.
Yes, exactly.
And in this is a very extremely specific case, because Death and Taxes needs all the help it can get.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is they need the bodies. They can also get the tutor, and they can get it to work in both ways. And I think in this case, in Death and Taxes deck, the Saga is B+. In Hammer Time is just straight A's, and in any other deck is depending on how the deck works. For example, in John's Saga, it's a great card because they have Brennan 6, which can recur the Saga and make tokens gigantic. They need a little bit of time, but that's a control deck. You don't just play turn 3 wins or turn 4 wins
Indeed.
with John Saga.
Indeed.
Sanctum Prelate briefly coming down, but countered by 3 mana counterspell. For those who do not know, Sanctum Prelate is 3 mana 2/2 that says name a number. And players cannot play non-creature spells with the mana value of the chosen number. So, for example, 2 shuts down counterspells, shuts down everything from expressive iteration to other cards, and this does not this does not count in the Talia taxing effect. And we see a swing with Shadow Spear and 3/3 tokens, and this is enough against Murktide player who stumbled just a bit, couldn't find removal for the Talia, and was just taxed just enough of the game. And this is something that the Death and Taxes can just do.
This is also a great time to invite you all to like, share, and subscribe. Okay, guys, if you, and girls, and everything else, if you like the content, be sure to tell us in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe. It's free. It's free, amazing.
And it helps us a great deal.
Yeah. And okay, so we saw the Izzet players struggling this game too, and we saw a decent start from the Taxes player, but I can't escape one feeling. I can't escape the feeling that the Murktide player lost this game because he was struggling, not because Taxes won.
That's true. That's also true, but Death and Taxes puts you in a position where you struggle. Your deck struggles.
Okay.
This is just as the efficiency or efficacy of decks gets better with time or with different formats, for example, Modern Legacy and so on, taxing effects get more and more pronounced. So as in Standard, Thalia is just okay, because it can delay your wraths by, let's say, 1 turn. And this can be the difference between the win and loss, between White Weenie and some control deck or whatever. In Modern, where all the plays, all the cantrips are 1 mana, suddenly if those cantrips are 2 mana, we have seen how bad the Searing Visions looked. It was not 1 mana, and Serum Visions is already a questionably playable card, not in the state of Modern format, but in this particular deck, because, for example, in something like a control deck, you value the card selection more than the draw power itself. But being 2 mana it's double the mana than you usually pay. And you are reluctantly paying the first mana for this effect anyways, and paying 2 mana is just atrocious. Especially if you just stumble for a bit and you need to find that third land or second land or whatever, and you have a Thalia and you're thinking, should I kill this Thalia right now, or should I dig a little bit deeper and find a land? Because if I kill the Thalia and my 2 other or 3 other cards are not land, I'm screwed, because I am on 2 mana. And if I kill and if I don't kill the Thalia, I can get taxed out even more. So this is the squeeze that Death and Taxes puts you in, and it can attack very inefficiently, but it can attack for a bunch of angles. So the mana base in Death and Taxes is mostly not plains, and this might be surprising for somebody that doesn't know how to build monocolored land bases, because usually you think about monocolored decks like, okay, I can just put plains inside or just islands inside and let's call it a day. But this build has a lot of utility lands. We have seen Urza Saga. We have seen some pathways that can be flipped over. for additional colors, for something like prismatic endings,
Of course.
or even engineered explosives from the sideboard. There also we have seen
Some land hate.
Oh, of course. So ghost quarters and similar lands, which leaves only very little number of basic lands, basic planes in this deck. So, which needs to be done because you want every card that you draw be impactful in such a deck like this.
Of course, it's a deck that needs to every turn it needs to do something because it does a lot of things in small amounts, so it needs to do those things often.
Yeah, exactly. So the difference between, for example, a Murktide Regent and anything that you can play from the deck, from the Death and Taxes deck. So Murktide Regent comes down as a 7/7, you're screwed. But for the Murktide Regent to come down as a 7/7, the Izzet player needs to go through massive hoops or not massive hoops, but a bunch of little hoops that the Death and Taxes player will put them through. And they will present it like in forms of Thalia, in forms of Giver of Runes, in forms of Stoneforge Mystic, in forms of everything else that is unfortunately still lacking for a good Death and Taxes experience, let's say.
So we have a new edition coming in, and you mentioned before we started recording that this new Kamigawa edition might make Death and Taxes a better deck.
Yes, exactly. So with Kamigawa New Dynasty, we can hope to slot in two actually cards into this deck, at least two. One of them is Lion Sash, which is basically a little different Scavenging Goose in white. And the second one is the white legendary land that I forgot the name of. It is uncounterable, very bad, but uncounterable kill spell.
Exactly.
For 3 mana, 4 damage to attacking creature or blocking creature.
Exactly.
Which is still not great, but it's also a utility land that can be slotted in to the mana base and make it even more impactful.
Lion Sash, on the other hand, it seems like an amazing card, especially with Stoneforge Mystic, as Stoneforge Mystic can tutor for this card.
Exactly. It is an enchantment creature. It is an aura creature, actually, which is perfect for the Stoneforge Mystic, and we saw a flash of the Death and Taxes player's hand right now, and it is Thalia, Sanctifier Vec, another Ether Vial, and a whole lot of goodies. Now, will he be able to deploy all of those goodies?
That's the question.
That's the question.
We see, two mana, up to blue mana and Counterspell in the hand of the Izzet player. So I doubt that. Well, either while will put Esper Sentinel in the play. So if the Izzet player decides to play to counter the spell, the Taxes player will draw.
Exactly. So this is with Aether Vial, there is always this tension. I don't think that after this Thalia, the Death and Taxes player will play anything into 2 open mana or 3 open mana or whichever open mana, because they do not have to. Because they have the Aether Vial that is providing both mana advantage, but also insurance against counterspells.
So I think that this is definitely a situation where you want to counter this Thalia, sorry.
Well, either that or you want to kill the Esper Sentinel and then kill the Thalia, but this is 2 cards for 2 mana, both of them, because Thalia was still on the stack. And this is also the squeeze that we were talking about. So it is not just game-ending stuff, but it is giving the player time, giving it half a turn, giving it 1 extra mana, giving it a little bit more breathing. And this is all that Death and Taxes needs. Death and Taxes is a control deck on its core. And as we see, the 2/1 first strike in Talia is great because of its taxing effect and not because of its just raw power and toughness. Because DRC as a 3/3 will just block it, and thankfully it has to attack every turn, but it is more aggressive and aggressively costed than Talia.
We see Texas player in a great position with Weil and Urza Saga. Definitely, two cards that work well together. Better Weil being an artifact for Urza tokens, but also when you make a token, you still have Ether Weil to play something from your hand.
Exactly. So this is the mana squeeze also that the Death and Taxes puts themselves and the opponents into. If they have Ether Vial, they can just play everything from their hand at instant speed, first of all, second of all, without tapping their lands. And their lands, as we said, are utility lands, and they are used for all of the other things. For example, making Urza's tokens, killing opponents' lands, or just a lot of things. But and we see just all the mana just being left open, and Ether Vial getting in a surprise blocker in Sanctifier and Vec, and this will exile all the red and black spells from the opponent's graveyard, and it's a free block.
Beautiful.
Now there is no Delirium, and it will get blocked, and the Sanctifier has protection from red, and there is another red creature that gets blocked by Sanctifier all day, and now there is a Golem token, and Ether Vial goes up to 3. The Death and Taxes player draws a card.
Okay, what is Texas player targeting with 3 counters on Ether Vial?
There's a lot of things. There is Flicker Wisp, probably still in the deck even after a sideboard. Maybe something like Aven Mind Sensor also. Also something like Skyclave Apparition.
Of course.
Or there is actually a lot of things that cost 3 mana that is just excellent for Death and Taxes, but it costs 3 mana. And as we saw game 1,
fair enough.
Just if you don't do anything in turn 1s and 2, you will just get countered out of it.
Fair enough. Okay, so we see Texas player attacking with both Sanctifier and the token that entered last turn.
So there are 4/4s, the Sanctifier is 2/2, and probably another Ether Vial that we know about maybe gets played. Yeah, probably. Probably this was better to be played before combat, for the 1 damage, but I don't think it'll matter. And if it matters,
it probably won't matter. And I want to touch on something. I think this is a great example how Murktide Regent is a card that doesn't do much.
Exactly. We see here now the game ended with a lot of power from the Death and Taxes player. So Murktide Regent is not a card to play on turns 1, 2, and 3. It's a card to play on turn 17 when your opponents are out of cards, as we mentioned before.
I feel like it's a card that wins more.
I wouldn't think so. I don't think so, but this is a topic for another game.
Definitely.
This match is over, and thank you all for watching. If you enjoy this match, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next round.
Bye.